That's right. It's Monday night, 8 o'clock, and I'm so happy you're joining me again this week. Listen, it's the last day of August. Can you believe this, people? I know a lot of people are so thrilled the summer's over, fall is here, and they can't wait for the year to be over. Yeah, August. So what I do this weekend, let's talk about it real quick because I didn't do much. The only exciting thing that happened to me this weekend was Friday night. As some of you know, I have a lead part in a TV pilot called Mind Games. And we had rehearsal on Friday night, and we're actually filming this Wednesday coming up. So I'm very excited about that. It's not a comedic part for me. It's very, very serious role, very emotional, and it does test my acting chops. So I'm excited about that. Not much over the rest of the weekend except laundry and shopping. Boring. So let's get to my guest. Oh man, he is a comic, he's a club owner, he is an author, he's the man, the myth, the legend. Al Martin is in the house.
Thank you.
Hi Al, how's it going?
I love being here. Last day in August and all. I'm rocking and rolling.
I'm happy to hear it. So listen, I wanna really, there's so much information to talk to you about. So I wanna start out when you were a kid. You grew up in Brooklyn,
USA, Sheepshead Bay.
Sheepshead Bay. And, you know, you grew up there as a kid. And like me, we had an eating issue.
Yes.
We still do. And
Yes.
we were picked on as kids.
Look at my background.
Yeah, I know. It's making me salivate with that steak. But we were both I don't like the word fat. I don't like to say the F word, fat. I like to say voluptuous, zafdik. You know, there's a bunch of words we could say. But basically, we grew up liking food and being a little on the chunky side, and we got picked on.
Yes, even by my mom. She always took me to the Husky Boy department in the department store.
Exactly. Yeah, the Husky department. I remember that. And then you studied at Baruch College. Tell me what you studied there.
Marketing. I went to school for marketing. And
Yes.
at the time, like anybody else, I'm sitting there and I'm saying, what do I need all this crap for? And then years later in the comedy club business, marketing was a very integral part of what I did.
Oh, absolutely. I could imagine. And you had a very, very, very successful business. The polygraph business.
Yes.
You gave polygraph tests
Yeah.
for businesses to hire people for their jobs, right? And
Yeah, lie detector tests.
Yeah,
for lack of a better word.
And you actually gave the test yourself, right?
I gave the test myself. I went to when I had lost a job years back. I was actually in charge of security for Century 21, the department store.
Uh-huh.
And I lost their job because I pissed off the wrong family member, I guess. You know, Brooklyn style, we don't hold back, you know.
No.
I got fired, and you know, that kind of thing usually causes you to reflect and reevaluate your life. And I went to polygraph school, learned how to give lie detector tests, and eventually built one of the biggest, within a few years, one of the largest polygraph companies in New York.
And it was very, very successful until it got halted by Senator Kennedy, no less, who basically said, hey, listen, this can't be done anymore.
That's right. Ted Kennedy felt that it was a violation of people's rights, and he passed the anti-polygraph bill, which Reagan was not going to sign into law at the time.
Right.
But there was something that Reagan wanted that Kennedy was, there was something that, and they horse traded, and basically they sold me out and my business, you know.
Wow.
And
so now, now you have no business. You built up this beautiful business, and it was very, very successful. And then all of a sudden it comes to a complete halt.
Yeah, it sounds like now, right?
Yes.
30 years later, the same thing is happening all over. I'm having flashbacks.
Exactly, deja vu. So what did you do? I mean, listen, I know that you got into comedy, and I want to know what time frame, like from, like, how did that happen?
Yeah, this was in the late 80s, which was not a very good time for Al Martin, because not only did the business get I had a year to wrap up operations, but I started, my dating life was in shambles too.
Right, you were going through a divorce, right?
Yeah, I was going through a divorce, and
Been there, done that.
yeah, the dating wasn't going very well,
Right.
but I did date this one girl. She was a bit of a loon, and it turned out, surprise, she was an open mic comic. So
Right.
she said to me one day, she said, "Al, why don't you come on down, watch me do my stand-up comedy at Pips Comedy Club in Brooklyn?"
Yep.
And yeah, I said, "Okay, I'll watch it." I had ulterior motives like any other guy, so yeah, I had to pay the price, right? So I went. Boy, did I pay a price! That show was horrible.
So she basically dragged you to her open mics, and she
Right.
kept on saying, "How am I? How am I?" And because you had ulterior motives, you were like, "Oh my God, you were great. That's so funny.
You were
That's so
great.
funny."
You
But
were great. You look great. You sound. Everything is great now.
Right.
So,
but there
but
was
she
one day you
She
said, "You
wouldn't
know what?
stop.
I gotta be brutally honest with this chick."
Yeah, I couldn't take it anymore. I said, "Listen, you suck. Okay, you're not funny at all. You're not funny. You never were funny." And then we got into like a 15-minute fight. And she was insulting me. I was going back at it, and then she said, "You know what? You're a pretty funny guy. Why don't you get on stage? I
Right.
dare you to get on stage."
She dared you, and the rest is history.
That's right. The rest is history. And I went to Pips the following week. I sat there for 3 hours waiting to go up. Just as it was my turn,
Right.
Andrew Dice Clay walks in, and he decides he's going to rehearse his HBO special at the time.
Right.
45 minutes. He gets off stage. The entire audience runs to the bar to hang out with him and get his autograph.
Right.
And the MC forgot my name, introduced me. There were two people sitting there. And the next thing I know, the girl who came with me fell asleep. So, it was a disaster. And I want to tell you Teresa, how delusional I was. I'm on the stage and I'm thinking, this is my first time ever.
Yeah.
Said, you know what? If I do a really dirty set, maybe Dice will notice me, think I'm great, take me on the road to open up with him all over the country.
Oh my God.
That's why to this day, when comics tell me about some of their crazy ideas and their crazy dreams that are nowhere near ready to succeed, I have a little, I'm kind of a little empathetic towards it because I went through the same thing that night.
But I have to tell you what I love about you, and this is our first time actually meeting, and I've played your clubs before back in the day, and recently, before the pandemic. But I met Dice years ago in the early '90s when I did comedy at a club called, and you know it very well, Jimmy's Comedy Alley in Bayside.
Oh yes, I know that very well.
And I grew up in Bayside, so that was like my home club. I was there a lot, and then I was in the city a lot back in the '90s. But when I did the comedy,
did you know Linda Cork?
Yes.
Cork?
Yes.
Linda worked for me. Yeah.
I know she did. I read it.
Okay.
I did later on. But what happened was when I did comic strip back in the day, I'm about to go on like you, and who walks in and I get bumped? Chris Rock. And you know what? If you're gonna get bumped, I don't mind being bumped by Chris.
Well, now you could say that you opened. Chris Rock opened for you.
Exactly. Listen, I want to give a quick shout out to my girl, Kristen Tinsley, who produces comedy shows out here on the island. Hello, Jen Lantini. Got a bunch of people watching the show. Please like the show and share it. I'm with Al Martin. He is the man, the myth, the legend, and he is a comedian. He started out as a comic, became a club owner, and now he's an author. We have so much to talk about. So basically, your first time was at Pips. You think you're going to go on the road with Dice.
Yeah.
And you had a rude awakening.
Yes, I got Dice's attention. He probably never saw a comedy club so quiet. Everybody was staring at me. And the insane thing is I bombed so bad, but I got the bug. And I decided I'm going to go up again. And what
Yeah.
really was the key, and this is something I try to teach comics all the time.
Yeah.
Going up on stage is not only about the set you're doing in the beginning, but it's also about the social interaction. And I wound up hanging around a bunch of comics that night, and I said, "Hey, these people are kind of fun, you know." And
They are. Comics are fun. We're all crazy, but we're fun.
yeah, all out of their minds. So I said, "You know what? Where else do you go?" And they gave me a whole list of places, and I showed up. And some of those people that night at Pips and some of the people I met in the ensuing weeks have still been with me 25 to 30 years later in some
Wow.
capacity. Employees, or they've worked and produced shows at my club. So what I try to tell comics all the time is don't always say, "Oh, I'm beyond open mics." Be social at these open mics. Make friends, make contacts. You never know when that comic you're talking to now, in 5 years from now, winds up getting a sitcom, and they need writers on that sitcom, and they remember you as a funny person. So
right.
You never know where the dots connect years later.
It's true. It's true. And your big thing is you tell everybody, stay humble, stay out of controversy.
Right.
Be nice to everyone, and don't make enemies.
Right. And I've broken every one of those rules. I've gotten into controversy.
Listen, you know what it is? It's a very tough industry. It's a tough business. It really is. Everyone thinks they're funny. Everyone thinks they're funnier than someone else. Everyone gets, and you know what I love about you is that you started out as a comedian, so you can be so sympathetic to comedians and what we go through and what we've been through. There are club owners out there who are only businessmen, and that's all it's about for them, putting the asses in the seats, which I know, as you as a club owner, you want to do too. I get it, but you also have that empathy and sympathy for comedians who are going through the levels to get to where they want to be, or what they want to establish. And you've been there, you've done that, and that sets you apart from everyone else. And you know what sets you apart from other people? So many other things. So I'm going to leave everyone hanging for a quick 30 seconds. We're going to take a quick break, 30-second break, to hear from my sponsor. Everyone stay where you are. Kristen Tinsley, I will get to your question for Al, and we'll be right back after this. So where do you want to go tonight?
Are you bored?
Oh my God.
Hold on tight. We're gonna coast us.
Well, hi there, Teresa. It's John York from General Hospital. I am just checking in because apparently you have a great talk show called Tea Time on Strong Island TV. I want you to have continued great success and have a lot of fun. It sounds like you're having a lot of fun, and that's pretty much the key to everything, isn't it? So continued success. I'm proud of you. Have a great day, Teresa. Bye.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Tea Time. That's right, it's Monday night, last day of August. I'm so glad you're joining me right now. Hello, Kristen Tinsley. Hello, everybody watching. Please like the show and share it. I'm with comic club owner and author Al Martin is in the house, and I'm so excited. So listen, so basically we were just talking about how you started out as a comedian, and you can feel for other comics, and I'm sure you've seen the best of the best and the worst of the worst. And listen, everyone and their mother wants to be a comic these days, and I know from my experience. And again, I gave you a quick bio on me. Back in the 90s, I was Teresa Manzo, did comedy for a few years, and then I stopped when I had my daughter, and then I came back to comedy with the help of Bob Nelson about 4 years ago. And not much has really changed, I'll tell you the truth. Since then, I mean, it's still really male dominated. A lot of male comedians. There aren't too many females on shows mixed in, and that's something that you just see. It's part of the, nature of the beast, I guess. But, there's some people who think they should be doing comedy that they really shouldn't. And, and I give them a lot of kudos that they get up and they try. And they try and they try and they try. And if someone asks me my opinion or they want to know something, and I've helped out up and coming comics myself, I've gone to open mics, I've gone to bringers. I like to see new talent myself and see what's out there and what's going on. What's the best piece of advice that you can give a comic really starting out in today's business? Because you do have some rules. And some rules, just to touch upon a couple of them in your book, which we're going to get to. I read it, I loved it, is that, look, I know back in the 90s when I started, I didn't have any children. I was able to come into the city every night of the week, right? So one of your rules is try to travel light, right? Because that way you have nothing to hold you back.
That's right.
You're available, you're putting yourself out there almost every night. You want to be out there, you want to be seen, you want to be heard, you want to work on your craft, right?
Absolutely.
Another one is try to help he or she who has the least ongoing in their life.
Right, which is exactly how I started in stand-up comedy. I had nothing going on at the time, and I said, okay, I'll go to an open mic and try it, and then I got hooked. Now, I don't know how much different my life would have been and whether I would have... Look at that one example, how I started in stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
Had I been married and had 3 kids and lived in, upstate New York, how the heck would I have ever done stand-up comedy on a regular basis?
Because we know love don't pay the rent.
That's right. And, you might, and let's face it, you date, this is why I say to comics, be careful about marrying audience members sometimes, because you go on stage, you control that stage, you look like a powerful figure, the girl starts dating you, and then, you take her to a club a couple of times and she's excited that you're signing T-shirts afterwards or something. But at some point, after the 13th time she's watched you, she goes, oh, you go to the club on your own, and, all of a sudden...
The novelty wears off.
So
yeah.
It's a weird road comics have to go through to get there.
And, it is.
I was listening to one point you were making about females on shows, and I always find that fascinating because at least in New York City, a lot of the comedy rooms are booked by females. Linda Cork, who used to work for me, that you knew from Governors. I mean, not Governors, Jimmy's Comedy Alley.
Jimmy's.
We very rarely booked female comics. It was incredible.
I know.
And then you do have Linda Rowe, who books Dangerfields.
Yep.
You're lucky if you find 2 females on their lineup at any, at all in a year.
Mm-hmm.
And Amy Hawthorne, she books the 2 New York comedy clubs, and Esty books the legendary Comedy Cellar. So at least 5 or 6 of the bookers in Manhattan are females.
Right.
So,
which is great, and we've come a long way.
Well, yeah. I mean, women book the rooms, but they're not booking women for some reason.
But that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing. That's the whole thing. It gets frustrating. It does. It gets frustrating. It really does, because I was born with the vagina, Al. I had no choice. You know what I'm saying?
No choice.
So listen. Yeah. So from Pips, you say to yourself, okay, this is great, and and not for nothing, but you became a headliner, and you actually were showcased and done television credits. You were on Joan Rivers' show, you were on Geraldo, you did Evening at the Improv, and
I'm doing this show.
And you made it big time now on Tea Time. Woo! And my girlfriend Kristen Tinsley is a female producer here on Long Island, and she said that's why she does a lot of female shows. She does a lot of her first show, if I'm not mistaken, Kristen, I was on. It was called Vagisilly. And it
You
was
know what? You have to make those breaks for yourself. If nobody else is going to open that door, God bless her for doing that show. We've done all sorts of shows.
Well, you were the first one. Listen, you were the first one to actually, I got to put on my glasses for this, but you were actually the first one to, start shows that were more diverse. You did a
Absolutely.
Latino night. You did a gay night. You did urban, Asian. You put it out there for these, different social networking, people to get together and showcase, hey, listen, you can do an all-female show, you could do an all-gay show, you could do a Latino show. This is something that you did. You also are the man who came up with bringer shows.
Yeah. People get me on that one, but it's a very important aspect for a lot of comedians.
Yes.
And Teresa, I find that people that don't like those shows are the ones that can't bring anybody, but
right.
I always say, if someone can bring people to a show and it allows them to get up in front of a real audience and it makes them feel good and the club makes money, it's a win-win for everybody.
Right.
Then why not? I mean,
Yes.
if you can't bring people, that doesn't mean you cannot succeed as a comedian. You just find becoming a great comic is about hitting a wall in a number of places and then see where that door is hidden in the wall that will open up and let you in. That's all it is.
Right. Well, I like to say I don't like to knock on doors. I like to kick them in. And
exactly. There you go.
That's about, I got a very strict Sicilian father, Al, and he always taught me it never hurts to ask. All a person could say is no. So I'm not a shy person, obviously. I get up on stage, and I've heard no before in my life. It's not something I've never heard. You know what I mean? And you have to have thick skin.
Oh, you have to.
In the entertainment industry, you have to have thick skin.
Absolutely.
You really can't, as comedy is subjective. So what's funny to me may not be funny to you. And, you've done so much in your career that I want to know personally. Is there anything you haven't done yet that you'd like to do?
I've done even a little acting. What I probably would like to do is do some voiceover work, try voiceover work.
I think you'd be great at it.
Yeah, people tell me I have a pretty good voice and that I would be pretty good at doing voiceovers. So I'd like to try that,
Yeah.
During this COVID thing, you have time to try things you never thought you would do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. Totally get it. Totally. So listen, you also, you also were part of theme shows. You were the first one to have 2 rooms, correct? 2 rooms to do shows.
That's correct. New York Comedy Club.
2 showrooms, right? Back in 1997 at New York Comedy Club was the first venue, right? To have 2 rooms.
2 showrooms. I think in the country. I don't think anybody else had thought of it and done it.
And at one time, not only do you own Broadway Comedy Club, but you also own Greenwich Village Comedy Club. But at one time, you were the first person in Manhattan to own 3 at one time.
That's right. 3 comedy clubs in the biggest city in the world. So, yes. And I had the Florida Club, too. I had one in Boca Raton.
Yeah, you had one in Florida. And you went into that with... Again,
guy named
Barry Katz, right? Was that with Barry Katz?
Oh, no, you know what? Actually, Teresa, you stumbled onto something there. Barry Katz used to run the Boston Comedy Club.
Boston Comedy Club, that's it, right. But he was also the executive producer of NBC's Last Comic Standing.
Correct. And then what happened was when he started getting busy with Last Comic Standing, and he also managed Chappelle and Jay Moore for a while, so as he got busy with those projects, he couldn't run the Boston Comedy Club, and he didn't have anybody else locally anymore because he was based out of L.A., and he turned to me and said, Al, do you want to run the Boston Comedy Club for me? So At one time, I was running Broadway, Boston, and New York Comedy Club
Wow.
at one time, and then eventually Boston went out of business. But I got such a taste for the Village at the time, I decided, hey, I wasn't actively looking, but a location in Greenwich Village came my way,
Popped
and
up.
hence, yeah, we opened up
And that
the
was
Greenwich Village.
2012, right? 2012.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we opened that. So that's when, I had the third comedy club in the city,
Right.
and actually four at different times. But then, exactly. So, and then I sold New York Comedy Club in 2014 because basically I had a kid in each club. I had three kids, three clubs.
Yes.
One of them went on to other stuff, left
Right.
the business,
Yeah.
and the other two were still in it. But I found that, it's an interesting thing. We had a weird neighbor over at New York Comic Con that used to drive me nuts every night calling the police.
Yeah, that was the one who kept calling the police on you. Really, give it a rest. I was
Yeah,
reading it. I'm like, please, do you have nothing better to do in your life? Seriously?
She really didn't, And,
She was breaking your balls until they were crushed.
right. She crushed them, but I decided at that point, New York wasn't as profitable anymore because a lot of the business went to the Village, which is a very busy street down there.
Right.
Broadway was in Times Square. So
Yeah.
I said, but I was making some money. I wasn't making a lot there. And I said, you know what? For the amount of money I'm making, to have this aggravation every night with the police and this and that, that's when I sold it.
Well, I was there May of '94.
Oh, so you were there when I was still owned the place.
I was there, yeah.
There you go.
I sent you the picture of the VHS
That's
tape.
right. Hey, were those Pete Klugsman tapes? You remember Pete Klugsman?
I bet you they were.
Yeah. He used to video a lot of shows all over town.
Yeah, he
He
was
had
the
that
man. He was the man behind the camera.
Yeah. He always looked like at any moment he was going to go crazy, He's like a very quiet. You ever go to his studio to pick up one of these tapes?
No, I think I actually got them at the club.
Oh, okay, because he had an apartment in the West 70s in the Upper West Side.
Yeah.
You'd go in there, and this guy had a collection of every great comic when they first started. Could you imagine if he had releases, what that would be worth?
Ooh, Minkia, holy cannoli. So listen, so you did new talent showcases. You let people produce their own shows. You do an internship program. These are all things that, you've come up with to help the struggling comic.
That's right. These are ways that they can get on stage. If you can't bring an audience to a show, you want to try interning or you want to try barking shows. All of these are options that you can do. And
Because a lot of people complain, I can't get on shows, I can't get on shows, I can't get on shows, I can't get on shows. And
they can't get on shows because they think in the first couple of months of them performing that the whole world wants them on their stage. They haven't learned humility yet.
Al, you had said in one of your videos, which I know I'm going to let you repeat now, comedy is like school. If you go to school to become a lawyer, you go for so many years to become
That's
a
right.
lawyer, right? So we are now in the school of comedy, and you have to put in your dues and your time and your sweat and your tears. All right. You can't just say, oh, I'm doing comedy a year now. I think I'm ready for a main room.
Exactly. That's exactly true.
Because you say, if you think you're that funny, come down on a Saturday night and watch my comics. And if you think you're funnier than one of them, then we'll talk.
Exactly. For me to give you a spot, I have to bump one of the people I'm using right now. And, usually that scares people off. They think about it and say, you know what? In reality, I'm really not that funny. But every so often, you get a couple of stupid people that still think, I'll never forget the first year I did comedy. I thought I was the shit. I thought I was unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
And then I watched a set of mine in my second year of my first year. And I was cringing. I go, how did I think that was any good?
Right.
So we all go through that at some point.
We do. I mean, when I found those VHS tapes, I'm watching myself And I never really had a bad set, like, thank God. I mean, I never like really bombed. And I remember someone telling me, listen, if you could do Pips and you can make them laugh there,
Yeah,
you
right.
can
That's
make
true.
anyone laugh anywhere.
Especially in the last few years of Pips, when 80% of the audience was Russian and they had no idea what you were talking about in English. They just wanted to go out for a night of American comedy, but they
Yeah.
had no idea what was going on, you know?
Right. And I think I did well because I'm Italian. So, you know, and you always say, write authentically, write what you know, write what you live, because it's authentic. And when
You
you
know,
write about yourself, it's funny.
yeah, I kind of got screwed on that because I did that Ancestry.com and I found out I was 24% Italian. I had no idea.
Really?
You know? I thought my family background was like Greece and Turkish, but it turned out that we must have spent some time in Italy. I was 24% Italian. I should have plugged into that a little bit. Brooklyn,
Oh, yeah.
Italian, yeah, you know.
Nice, quarter of Italian in you. That, I take it. That's great. I'm actually 100% Sicilian, so
You're trouble.
yeah, I am.
I've dated some Sicilian women in my life, so yes.
We're firecrackers.
Keep the cutlery locked, especially the knives.
Listen, we're going to take another quick break. Al, stay there. Don't go away. Everybody, don't go away. We'll be back in 30 seconds with Al Martin. Thanks, everybody.
So where do you want to go tonight?
Why don't we go to Coasters?
Oh, cool. I heard it's a great place. Let's check it out.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Oh my God.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Tea Time. I want to thank John York. In the last commercial break, I didn't get a chance to thank John York from General Hospital, saying such beautiful words about Tea Time and me and my show. I had on one of his colleagues from General Hospital, Carolyn Hennessy, and John York. I'd love to have you on Tea Time too. So listen, I'm back with Al Martin, everybody. He started out as a comic. He's a club owner, okay? He owns Broadway Comedy Club and Greenwich Village Comedy Club, and we know we're all shut down right now, and entertainment is the last thing to come back, and we're not loving this. And now he's an author. And Al, I mean, like I said before, you were a pioneer. You were standing outside of a club, and you said, you know, screw this. It's cold. I'm waiting 3 hours. One day I'm going to own this place. What place was that?
It was the Improv in Manhattan. 3 hours waiting to audition for Silver Friedman, who owned the place at the time, 44th and 9th or 10th Avenue. Yeah, 9th Avenue. And it was pouring rain. And I turned around to this guy and I said to him, you know, screw this, man. I'm going to own this club one day. Fast forward to 2003.
12 years later.
We had the opening night party for the Improv Comedy Club in New York. This guy walks over to me and he goes, how you doing, Al? How's everything? And, you know, me, if I don't recognize somebody, I don't want to make them feel bad. So I just say, I'm doing great. How are you? And they're like, we were kind of dancing around this thing. And he says to me finally, you don't remember me, do you? And I go, no. He goes, you and I were at the line at the Improv years ago, and we were waiting, and you said to me, screw this place, I'm going to own it one day. And look at that.
Wow.
Great story.
Put it out into the universe.
You can't make up stuff like that, you know? It's weird, but I believe in that karma stuff, you know?
Oh,
and,
yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, you've had an amazing career between starting out as a comic and then, you know, being an owner. Right now what's going on with COVID, it's hurting everybody. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
know that, like you had mentioned, if you open at 50% capacity and you still have 100% expenses, how does it all work?
It's not going to be easy. It's going to be a challenge. I find, people in my business, in restaurant businesses, to be some of the most creative people in the world. I have lived through 9/11. I've lived through the Great Recession. I opened up my clubs at a time of a recession. I opened up my clubs when my competitors were Catch a Rising Star, the Improv, Dangerfield's comic strip. And 30 years later, I'm still here. So I'm going to figure it out one way or another,
Yeah.
And we're going to get you on our stage
Hey, you know what?
again.
I can't wait. I can't wait, Al. That'll be
Me
great.
neither. I can't wait.
Oh
this
my
is
God, I
Too much
said
time
that-
on my hands.
I know we all knew this was going to be a long haul for the entertainment industry, and it's sad because I saw you talk about Broadway, and even I said, you can't sell out any shows. You can't sell out shows, but yet you still have the same expenses. Like you said, the electric company wants what you give them, and the landlords want what you give them, and then you go on stage and you're thinking, like you said, equity and actors and electricians and carpenters and all these people who get salaries, and wages, certain wages stay the same. And if you can't sell out, that's a problem.
I mean, the most frustrating thing to me will be when we reopen and we've reached that 50% capacity, and there's 25 people who want to get in,
Right.
and I got to just say to them, no, even though I got the seats, I don't want to be around for that. It's going to be so sad to me, But
Yeah.
there's going to be a lot of challenges too. Broadway shows, they got a huge challenge. They cannot afford at all to. That's why they keep closing Broadway till there's a vaccine, because
Yes. I knew they weren't going to open in September. I knew that wasn't going to happen.
they cannot pay with 25 or 50% of the proceeds. They cannot pay the performers, the rent, the musicians union, the electricians union,
Right.
carpenters union.
Yeah.
They can't do it.
It's sad, and all we have to do is just pray and hope that it ends sooner than later. Because
Yeah.
I mean, I know you're not a fan of Zoom shows, okay?
Yeah.
And I have to tell you the truth. Unless they're done, listen. Everyone is trying to stay valid. Everyone's
Right.
trying to stay
Relevant.
relevant, correct? And people are doing these Zoom shows now. There was a time on Long Island that we were able to do shows outside, which now
Right.
came to a halt. We're not allowed to do that anymore.
I was on a call today with the owner of Governors. We were
Yes.
talking to the governor's office, as a matter of fact, a
Right.
bunch of comedy club owners laying out our case.
Right.
And he was talking about how he was able to do these shows, and then they just suddenly changed the rules in the middle after he spent a fortune.
And they're connecting
tent.
comedy clubs with strip clubs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we try to
Now-
get that straightened out today
Right.
too. Like,
Right.
how are we anywhere related to strip clubs?
I don't know. I've never taken off my clothes telling a joke. I don't know.
We have had strippers who are comedians.
Well, I know this is true, and I've worked with one. I've done that.
Yep.
That's
I had, you want frightening. There was one that was a stripper when I first started, the naked cowgirl, and she's still out there in
30
Times
years
Square.
later.
Yeah, the naked cowgirl. So
Wow.
yeah.
I bet you her tassels are hanging a little lower now, though.
Yeah, her tassels are hanging. Yes, you could say that. I guess I don't know. I get in trouble.
I could say it.
Her tassels are hanging as low as mine is hanging. I mean,
We say, "Como se llama?" Yeah, that's what we say. So listen, you wrote this book, okay? And the
Yeah.
book is called Did it on a dare. How I built a comedy empire in 30 short years.
Yes.
I have
And
to
the
tell you-
sequel, How COVID Ruined It in 6 months.
So I want to recommend everyone get this book. It's a fun read. It's a fast read. And it's very enlightening. And because it came from not only the owner who owns 2 of the biggest clubs in Manhattan, but it came from someone who started out as a comic himself. So he gets it. He gets it, people.
Yeah.
Fellow comics, he gets it. And in this book, which I want to thank you again, you dedicated this book to your sister,
Yeah.
who unfortunately passed away from COVID.
Yes.
Your sister Debbie, right?
Yes. Yes,
And-
absolutely.
And you wrote this book during a very crazy, heartbreaking time
Yeah.
in your life. And
Yeah.
what I love about this book is, and I told you this, I love people who are brutally honest. Don't blow smoke up my ass. Tell me the truth, I can take it. Okay? And that's what this book is. This book is brutal honesty. You talk about your beautiful wife, who you never thought you were going to meet, okay? And to bring back some fun memories, you met her on Love at AOL.
I love it, AOL.com.
Holy cannoli!
Yeah. Yeah. We were the first of the internet people. You know, before that, when you met someone on the internet, it was very sleazy. It was like, before that, it was the phone lines, the
You
phone
like
chat
Tinder.
rooms. Yeah, the phone chat rooms and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so one night I got home. You know, I used to work Friday and Saturday nights.
Yeah, I was
Most
gonna
people,
say, owning a club is like owning a restaurant. You have no social life. You're always there.
right? I had no social life. So one night I got home about 2, 3 in the morning from the club, and I just sat back in by my computer. At the time, it was just, you know, they were really slow. Remember AOL?
Yes, dialogue.
Yeah, right. And I had a glass of wine with me, and then a second glass of wine, and I'm scrolling this thing called Love at AOL, and one of the girls just captured my eye, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna send her a letter. You know.
And Carolyn has been with you, and you've been married now how many years?
20 years.
20 years, God bless. And you blended families. And
Yeah.
she's a Queens girl like me,
Rockaway.
Denise Rockaway. And
Me-
your first date was in Freeport.
That's right. The miracle. What do they call that? The Miracle Mile, or the
Yeah, uh-huh.
yeah. We ate at a restaurant called Schooners. It was
Schooners.
horrible, horrible. But the date and the conversation was great. So
And
Go figure.
you're very blunt in the book, and you say how it was a big adjustment, and by the second year, you figured it out.
right, that first year was hell. I mean,
First year marriage,
therapy 3 nights a week.
yeah. The first year marriage it's rough.
It's rough. I think if you can get through that first year, you know, I think you'll have many good years after that. I mean, there's always, you know, the 7-year itch that some people go through. There's always, you know, the empty nest syndrome when the kids leave the house and you're stuck with each other. But that first year is brutal.
Yeah, yeah. So listen, in the book, you also talk about how you went about getting the clubs, talked about life lessons in the comedy industry, which is, you know, imperative. Every comic out there needs to get the book. Needs to get the book. You need to read this. And you
I always
also,
say, yeah.
yes, go ahead.
I always say comics need to do 2 things on their road to becoming successful comedians. One, I've always said, you need to at least produce a couple of shows in your life to see what you put club owners and club managers through. You have to experience the other side of that and see how a club owner and club manager is thinking. And then, you know, I can't tell you how many times people produce a show and they say, God, Al, how do you do this? You know?
It's not easy. It really isn't.
Yeah, and the second thing is buy Did It on a Dare, because that'll give you Al Martin's golden rules.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you the truth. I did not plan on getting into stand-up comedy at all. I started acting when I was 4 years old. Mine was the opposite. I started acting when I was acting and dancing and singing when I was very, very little. And I always acted, always. And my girlfriends gave me a birthday card back in the early 90s, and it said, your birthday fantasy. I'm thinking back then, A Night with Antonio Sabato Jr., okay? I got very excited. And what it was comedy classes taught at the Learning Annex by Richard Mincer.
Okay.
And at the end of the 3 or 4 week class, you had to perform at Stand Up New York.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm not doing this. I act. I don't tell jokes. And they're like, no, you're really funny. Every time we hang out, you're funny. And I'm like, I'm funny with my friends.
You know,
and they were like, we paid for it. You're going to do it. And that's how I got into it.
a lot of managers nowadays, and for the last number of years, tell their acting clients to try to develop 5 to 7 minutes of stand-up, because for a very long time, that's where the agents were, and the managers were, during the years of Brett Butler, Roseanne Barr, all those people that picked up sitcoms at the comedy clubs.
Right.
The managers were starting to tell their people, develop like 5 to 7 minutes, do some characters, let these, people, the scouts in the audience see your range.
Right,
and
right.
We got a lot of actors for many years.
And that's what I try to do in my set. I do characters, and because of Bob Nelson, I do one joke with props. But
bring out a female version of Jiffy.
Jiffy Jeff's Gym, yeah. But you know what happened? You know how you thought, hey, Dice is going to see me, and I'm going to travel with him. When I started stand-up in the early 90s, my thinking was your top 5 sitcoms were Roseanne, Tim Allen, Ray Romano, Seinfeld, Ellen. So I'm thinking, all right, I could do this comedy thing. And someone's going to see me, and I'll get my own sitcom. Right?
Yeah.
Because that's
why not?
Why not? Why not? Why not? You also say that comics should try to be different, because when you're different, you stand out. You're memorable.
Of course. That's why it's important, really. I know when people are starting out, they reach and they maybe will try a joke that somebody else did, or they'll go for a hacky joke. But really, if you see the people that have really the big success, they tend to be people that have written stand-up comedy about their lives. Case in point, Ray Romano,
Yeah.
Seinfeld is really about a bunch of characters that he knew. There really is a Kenny Kramer in Manhattan who does even stand-up comedy.
Yep.
He runs a Seinfeld tour now in Manhattan.
Yes.
Ray Romano. Look at, you mentioned Tim Allen. Tim Allen did a show on, he used to do his whole act about men's tools and stuff, right? And then he did Home Improvement.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Talking about your life is important on stage.
Absolutely. And I think people, listen, I was talking to my girlfriend saying we all have a story. We all have stories. We all have funny things that have happened to us that are relatable to other people. And I think when you make fun of yourself and someone can relate to it, like, oh my God, that's happened to me. Or, oh yeah, I could picture myself in that situation. I think that's when people let down their hair, so to speak, and then they can relate to you.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So what else did I want to talk to you about in this book? I want to know why Dice is your hero. Why do you consider Dice your hero? I know why, but I want you to tell people why.
Well, first of all, I think, if you really know Dice, he's an incredible father. He's a really good father to his kids, so that's one thing I do respect about him. And, he is very successful at the time of what he did. He's the first comedian to sell out an arena the size of Madison Square Garden.
Yes.
And then he fell down,
Mhm.
and he picked himself back up. He
That's
stayed
right.
with it,
Yep.
and now he's enjoying a different type of success,
I'm gonna throw out another name. Artie Lang.
Well, both of those guys have the same quality, and that's loyalty. They're very loyal guys, I have never seen a charity that Artie Lang would not do if someone asked him.
Right.
He's been there all along for a lot of people. So that's why it really pisses me off sometimes. We all tend to jump on people when they're
Down.
up here, But, I think it's important that if you like somebody and their quality is strong in life, you like them no matter what, and
Right.
that's why I value the people that were my friends when I first started in comedy. And to this day, they're still my friends because they were with me when I had nothing to offer them. I had absolutely nothing.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But in this book, again, Did It on a Dare, How I Built a Comedy Empire in 30 Short Years. How can people find this book and get it? It's on Amazon, right?
It's on Amazon. It's also on Kindle if you like digital copies. It's on iTunes. The audio book is on iTunes.
Right.
And as soon as comedy clubs open, we will be selling it at Broadway Comedy Club, Greenwich Village Comedy Club. It's now in the Comedy Hall of Fame at Tampa.
Yes.
Not Tampa, Holiday Park, Florida.
Right.
So it's on sale over there and on display over there. And
I think that any comedian, every comedian needs to get this book. It's almost like a handbook. It's kind of like a guide, really, of the
Absolutely.
ins and outs of comedy and what you've learned in 30 years about comedy. And like I said, the part that that I appreciate is that you've been there, you've done it, you've lived it, and you know the struggles of being a comic. And a lot of club owners can't say that, And
no, I don't think there's only one other in Manhattan that has experienced that, and that's Chris Mazzilli over at Gotham. But other than that, a lot of people don't know he was a comic in the early 90s, but
Right.
very few comedians, actually own comedy clubs.
Correct.
Pauly Shaw grew up in it, and he's a
Yes.
comic, but,
Yeah. Mhm.
yeah, you could count the people on your fingers. How many? Brad Reeder, Charlie Goodnights, Vinnie
Yeah.
Brandt at not Laugh Factory, Stress Factory in New Jersey.
Well, listen, we have a minute left, and that's how fast my show goes.
What was what's-her-name's question at the beginning of the show? Did she have a question?
Oh, Kristen, real quick. Let me see if I can find it. What do you think we should say to Cuomo to convince him to open comedy clubs?
Open comedy clubs. We can do it. Socially distant, plexiglass,
We can.
masks, gloves,
Yes, we
disposable menus. We can do it all. Just give us a
can.
chance.
We can.
Signage, Purell stations. Do it all.
Listen, Al, I want to thank you for reaching out to me to do
Thank
my
you.
show. I am honored. I'm humbled.
Thank you for having me on.
Listen, anytime you have an open invitation, stay
Thank
right there. I want to tell everyone again, get the book. Get the book. Did It on a Dare, How I Built a Comedy Empire in 30 short years. This is for everybody who does stand-up, everybody in the comedy world. You need to read this. I want to thank everyone for watching. Please like the show. Please share it. And come back next week because I have a very special guest for a very special show. It's my birthday show next week. Not going to say who it is yet. You'll have to tune in. So everyone take care. Ciao for now. See you next week.
Ciao.